not quite the hero of the common man, the Maximus IX Hero is still priced just slightly above what we've thought of as the typical high-end segment. It's still cheaper than even the cheapest premium market Z270 motherboard we've tested, so perhaps Asus is creating its own niche? Rather than load up the Maximus IX Hero with a 40 gigabits per second ThunderBolt 3 controller sharing the same 40 gigabits per second chipset link with every other onboard device, Asus loads this ROG-series board with two 10 gigabits per second USB 3.1 controllers and a bunch of overclocking-friendly features. The top of the overview image above shows the MemOK button, which temporarily limits memory speed to allow booting if you've configured memory poorly, without forcing CLR_CMOS, several buttons on the lower edge to assist tuners who use open platforms, and two buttons on the I/O panel that make it easy to reset your firmware configuration, CLR_CMOS, and program the firmware IC without the need for a compatible CPU or DRAM. USB BIOS Flashback. We also see an obvious gap next to the I/O panel button, where it appears Asus left out the intended Wi-Fi module to justify the Maximus IX Hero's sub-premium pricing. The previously mentioned internal buttons and switches include power, reset, safe boot, retry, the slow mode switch, and the LN2 jumper. Retry forces a hard reset, and Safe Boot allows users to boot up using default settings while retaining their custom settings in the firmware GUI. The manual says slow mode clocks the CPU down to allow LN2 overclockers to manually overcome the cold bug phenomenon, and LN2 mode switches from slow to user-configured clock settings automatically following post. The sole USB 2.0 front panel header combines with 4 proprietary control pins when using an accessory Asus OC/panel overclocking controller. The Maximus IX Hero includes an incredible number of fan headers, though Asus doesn't list them all that way. 2 of the 8 PWM-capable headers are designated high-end for pumps and extremely large fans up to 3A. Asus recommends using only PWM mode for fans greater than 1A, and no speed control for pumps greater than 1A. Another 5-pin header connects to Asus accessory fan extension card, which can be purchased separately and used to add another 4 fans. The top front corner's MemOK button resides next to a 2-digit postcode display and 4 activity LEDs that indicate CPU detection, DRAM detection, VGA detection, and boot post-completion. The LEDs help users who can't easily decipher postcodes figure out which device stalled the boot process, should anything, such as an overclock, go wrong. Beneath the MemOK button, the threaded 3D mount secures optional covers, aesthetic components, that users can 3D print from model files available on the Maximus IX Hero microsite. The Maximus IX Hero has 3x16 length P3.0 slots, but you're only going to want to put 2 graphics cards in the system. The expected LGA 1151 options of X16, X0, X4 or X8, X4 pathways are still in play, where the PCH-FET X4 slot doesn't support SLI. However, the best reason not to use a graphics card in the bottom slot is that the USB 3.0 is the solitary USB 3.0 front panel header is found beneath it. The cables that connect to these aren't flexible. Alternatively, the bottom slot could be a good place to put a key SSD. Reinforced with through pins and metal encased sides, the 2 graphics card slots are separated by 2 extra spaces so that extra thick graphics coolers can fit. The P-X1 slots are open-ended to allow longer cards, such as X4, to be installed and operate in X1 mode. The long bottom slot operates with 2 pathways by default, but X4 mode can be enabled by disabling the X1 slot above it in BIOS. This arrangement makes sense if you assume 2 graphics cards will be installed in the reinforced slots, since even traditionally sized performance graphics card coolers are so thick that they block the slot directly beneath. Cable clearance for front panel USB headers won't be a problem if you can find a case with a new USB 3.1 connector, for which the interface is found above the slots, right next to the 24-pin powered header. Confounding research is the fact that many companies were already calling cases with Type-C front panel connectors USB 3.1 last year, even though those cases used the motherboard's USB 3.0 header. Many case manufacturers have relied on the technical verbiage of USB 3.1 Gen 1 to describe what we've come to know as USB 3.0. The only way to confirm that the newer USB 3.1 Gen 2 standard has been employed is to look at the case specs, or at photos of its cables. Buyer beware, as we have not yet seen any of the new generation cases in our labs. Moving on to storage, we find 6 SATA 6 gigabits per second headers facing forward at the Maximus IX Hero's front edge. One of these is shared with the upper M.2 interface, but only when an SATA-based M.2 card is employed there. The lower M.2 interface relies on Intel's flexible I/O scheme to steal resources from 2 SATA ports and employ those resources towards 2 key pathways. Users who want 3 drives to all operate in P 3.0x4 mode can use both M.2 slots along with the bottom key slot, while sacrificing only 2 SATA ports and 1 key X1 slot. The Maximus IX Hero includes a vast sticker kit, beverage coaster, and a CPU holder to ease installation, in addition to the traditional 4 SATA cables and I/O shield, a thermal probe lead, an HB stylus SLI bridge, a driver disc, bracket and M.2 screws, and a complete user's manual.